Call our meeting to order at exactly 7 o'clock. Mr. Robson, please call the roll.
Dr. DeMarco?
Here.
Mr. Eckenrode?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Here.
And Mrs. Newman?
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming. As you can see, we unfortunately have an empty chair. We're again very grateful for Mrs. Tomash and her service to the board. But the good news about that is that we have to fill that chair, and we're going to do that tonight. So I will accept a nomination for a new member of the Olmsted Falls Board of Education.
I'm privileged to nominate Mr. Justin Funk for the position of member of Olmsted Falls Board of Education.
Do you want to say anything more about that, Mrs. Newman, or is that it?
I think that's it for now.
Okay, all right.
Maybe later I
All
might
right.
say something more.
Well, then I will accept if there are no other nominations. No. I will accept a motion to accept the nomination of Mr. Funk to the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Newman, second by Mrs. Walker. And Mr. Robson, will you please call the vote?
Dr. DeMarco?
Yes.
Mr. Eckenrode?
Yes,
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
And Mrs. Newman?
I'm very excited to vote yes. Thank you.
the motion carries.
There'll be lots of clapping tonight for
Lots of
everyone in
clapping.
the audience.
Congratulations. I believe we will swear in our new board member now, and Mr. Robson's going to handle that. He's looking at me like, give me a second to type.
Yeah, you should come in the pit here just so
In the pit.
our
The pit.
audience, we're
Yep.
really
The mosh pit.
I, Justin Funk, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as a member of the Board of Education of the Olmsted Falls City School District, counties of Cuyahoga and Lorraine, State of Ohio, to the best of my ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during my continuance in said office and sworn until my successor is chosen and qualified. Thank you.
Congratulations and welcome.
welcome to the table.
Does he have a nameplate? Do we actually have a nameplate? Ah, okay, very good.
Not
Very good.
yet. We'll get him one.
Well, we're very excited to have you. You got big shoes to fill, but I have no doubt that you'll do a great job doing it. So welcome aboard, and thank you to your lovely family for being here as well tonight. What do you think, kids? Yeah, great.
Man, you don't know what it means yet.
Yeah. Ask Joey and Ben. There aren't any perks that come with this. So
Zero.
you still have to do homework. Yeah. So awesome.
Your dad won't call snow days. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
no
can't call snow days. We know like 3 minutes before everybody else. That's about all we can do.
Same.
Well, since this is our organizational meeting, we officially at the moment don't have a president or vice president of the Board of Education. So I will accept a nomination for the president of the BOE.
I would like to nominate Mrs. Holly Newman to be president of the Board of Education.
Okay. Do we have a second?
A second for that nomination or a second?
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I almost made it without screwing it up.
It's all right. It's just
So we do have a nomination. Do we have any other nominations for president? No. So I will accept the motion to appoint Mrs. Newman president of the Board of Education.
I would like to make a motion that we appoint Mrs. Holly Newman as president of the Board of Education.
Okay. Seconded by Dr. DeMarco. Call the vote.
Dr. DeMarco?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Eckenrode?
Yes.
Mr. Funk? Yes. And Mrs. Newman?
Yes, do I vote for myself? I can't remember yet.
Either way, motion
Yeah.
carries.
Yeah.
You should.
This is the hard part for me because I have to get out of the chair now.
Is that hard? You wanna-
Yeah.
I'm
that's
not
fine.
installed yet.
Okay.
Are we appointing first, Brett, the president, and then, or are you doing it all at once?
The swearing in.
The swearing in, I'm sorry. We don't do this
I
often.
think
We
you
only
swear.
do this once a year.
I think
And so-
this is twisted up.
Yeah.
I think you do that,
Yeah.
and then you do the
Yeah.
next,
Yeah.
then you swear in. Yep.
Okay. How about we just do, can we do it right here? How about right here?
We get nice pictures and you're on video.
Okay, sure. Okay, I thought,
You need to go to the prayer.
all right. So we don't do this all the time, and so.
Do you, Honorable President of the Olmsted Falls City Board of Education, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as President of the Board of Education of the Olmsted Falls City School District, counties of Cuyahoga and Lorraine, State of Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is chosen and qualified.
Alrighty. Thank you to the board, for that nomination. I appreciate your, support of my leadership. Thank you. Okay, so, now I'll take, from the board a nomination for vice president for this year.
I would like to nominate Mr. Phil Eckenrode as Vice President of the Board of Education.
Are there any other nominations for vice president? I'll accept a motion, from the board to accept the nomination of Mr. Eckenrode as vice president. Got that? And you can call the roll when you're ready, please.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
Dr. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mr. Eckenrode,
Yes.
Mr. Funk,
Yes.
and Mrs. Newman.
Yes, motion carries. Congratulations, Phil. Thank you. So we have to do the oath for Mr.
Last one.
Eckenrode.
Do you, Phil Eckenrode, Vice President of the Olmsted Falls City Board of Education, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as Vice President of the Board of Education of the Olmsted Falls City School District, counties of Cuyahoga and Lorraine, State of Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is chosen and qualified. I will.
Moving along, Mr. Funk, you already have 2 votes under your belt. So that's good. It goes quick. Okay, so we are, where are we at now? I will accept a motion from the board to, hold on a second, I lost my spot. Yes. So the next vote is to set the dates and times of our upcoming meetings for the calendar year 2023. And those are listed there in the agenda. So I'll accept a motion from the board to accept those dates and times.
So moved.
Second.
I don't have his computer. No computer yet. Oh, okay, great. Okay, Mr. Robson, you can call the roll when you're ready.
Mr. Eckernall,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mr. Funk. Yes. And Mrs. Newman.
Yes, motion carries. Item 10A is the appointment of a legislative liaison for 2023. And Mrs. Walker, we don't have to accept a nomination for that, right? Mrs. Walker has agreed to be the legislative liaison again for 2023. So I'll accept a motion from the board to appoint Mrs. Walker for that position.
So moved.
Second.
You can call the roll when you're ready, Mr. Robson.
Dr. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mr. Eckernall,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Funk. Yes. And Mrs. Newman.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you so much, Kelly, sorry. 11A is the approval of expeditious transaction for the district. I'll accept a motion from the board for 11A.
So moved.
Second.
You can call the roll when you're ready, Mr. Robson.
Dr. DeMarco, Mr. Eckernall,
Yes.
Mr. Funk. Yes. Mrs. Walker
Yes.
and Mrs. Newman.
Yes, motion carries. 12A is the approval of property tax exemption. Do we take a vote on this? Yes? I don't. Is there action on that? Yes.
There should be.
I'll accept a motion from 12A, for 12A from the board.
So moved.
Second.
When you're ready, Mr. Robson.
Dr. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mr. Eckernall,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Funk. Yes. And Mrs. Newman.
Yes, motion carries. 13A is the election of a public records training designee. Mr. Robson does that on behalf of the board. So I'll accept a motion from the board to appoint Mr. Robson to that position.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Dr. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mr. Eckernall,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Funk. Yes. And Mrs. Newman.
Yes, motion carries. 14A, I'll accept a motion from the board to adjourn our organizational meeting at 7:12 PM.
So moved.
Second.
And please call the roll when you're ready.
Dr. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mr. Eckernall,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Funk. Yes. And Mrs. Newman.
Yes. So that concludes our first meeting. And now we will open up a whole brand new meeting again. And we'll get to the wonderful friends from BTC. So just give us 1 minute. We'll start up our next meeting. Okay. Do we have a computer for Mr. Funk or no? No. Yeah, absolutely.
Joe May Gray indicated that it was.
All of those things are on deck to happen.
Got it.
It would be
Okay.
Presumptuous to, have all of that stuff on.
Understood. Okay, got it. Understood.
He was
Great.
waiting for the actual.
The action from the
Oh,
board
got
to
it.
officially appoint and approve.
Okay, got it. Okay, super. Yep, Justin, I'll let you get.
I read everything in there, so go ahead.
Okay, that's great. So we have to start all over again, and we have to say the pledge again, but first we have to open our meeting. So we'll open our meeting now at 7:14 PM. Mr. Robson, will you please call the roll?
Dr. DeMarco,
Here.
Mr. Eckernall,
Here.
Mr. Funk. Here. Mrs. Walker
Here.
and Mrs. Newman.
Here, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for being so patient, our friends from middle school. We have to do all that organizational stuff at the beginning of the year, and we had an added thing with our appointment of our brand new board member, which we're super excited to have. So Thank you for your patience. So we'll start our meeting with our friends from the Bulldog Theater Company. I'll turn it over to Dr. Lloyd.
Sure, thank you, Mrs. Newman. Congratulations to both of you for your appointments and to Mr. Funk, our new board member. Glad you're here with us. So everybody, I think, knows who the Bulldog Theater Company is. We, every month, generally every month, have a presentation by staff and or students or both to the board, and it's the middle school's turn to do that. So in talking with Mr. Kurz, he thought that the BTC would be a good group to bring here. So Mr. Kurz, I'm going to turn it over to you, who I then believe will turn it over to Mr. Barkowski, who it seems like we may even get a live ukulele performance, which is pretty exciting.
So it's my pleasure to turn us over to the off Broadway production of BTC.
Okay, wait. Can the kids like stand so our audience virtually can see?
I think he's got a thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't think
It's a
All right,
thing.
I just wanted to
It's a
make
thing.
sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure our virtual audience can see. Okay, great.
Is from Matilda the Musical, which our group, the Bulldog Theater Company, performed in the fall of 2021.
The Bulldog Theater Company, or BTC, has been Olmsted Falls Middle School's resident theater company since 2013. During this time, the BTC has produced 9 musicals, 8 plays, 4 monologue showcases, and 5 student creative performances.
Whether we produce a big-name musical, adaptations of classic literary works, Shakespeare, or collaborations with local playwrights, we keep in mind our company goals.
Promoting creative and collaborative thinking, public speaking skills, self-confidence, performance methods and styles, technical theater, design, and playwriting.
Education in all parts of the theatrical arts, including theater history, technical theater, performance methods, styles, designing, and playwriting.
Providing opportunities for us to work together as a theater company and explore the option of a career in the theater.
And nurturing an appreciation for the arts. The BTC is woven into the fabric of our school. Consistently, around 10% of our total student population participates in a BTC production each year.
Our most recent production, the musical Cats, had 73 students involved, 32 cast members, and 41 crew members. To me, BTC is coming to school every day looking forward to rehearsal. It's a fun opportunity to act and hang out with amazing people. BTC has taught me to sing and act confidently. I love the feeling of trying out for a play or a musical, or doing the 12-hour play festival. BTC is everything for me.
To me, the BTC is like another home. We aren't just a club, we're a family. Between the late working nights on teching and some Saturdays devoted to working on our shows, it's really fun. We get to experience the excitement and anticipation waiting for the announcement of the fall musical or the spring play. It's really made my middle school experience much better because I get to meet new people from grades above and below me, and I hope BTC stays at the middle school for more years to come so other kids can enjoy it just as much as I did. To me, the BTC is a place to express myself. I get to be a bunch of different people, and sometimes I even get to be mean to people. Not that I like to be mean to people. It's just a character that I get to play.
To me, the BTC is a place to escape the regular school day to hang out with people who have the same interests as me. I've made so many great friends in the BTC.
To me, the BTC is a place to get away. The BTC has become a place where I can hang out with friends, be myself, and learn every day. The BTC has helped me fit in at the middle school and make new friends. Because of the BTC, I'm more confident in my singing and acting skills. When we take on a new character, we take on a new life and carry that character out into our school and home lives. The BTC is an amazing environment.
To me, the BTC isn't something where you just go on stage and perform and leave. It's so much more. I've met so many people that are some of my closest friends. Everyone is like family. We all get along so well because we share at least one thing in common. BTC is a place where I can be myself and something else at the same time. It's something where I can where I can do whatever I want without being judged. I've learned so many things about not only myself and my acting skills, but things to help me with my personal life. I am a little more open about myself around other people since joining BTC.
To me, the BTC is family. I can act and feel myself loosen around the environment this group has created. I feel confident and every problem just washes away once I step onto that stage. I am with the most talented peers of my school, and it means so much to learn from them.
To me, the BTC is a place where you can just be yourself and express yourself. Everyone in BTC is like a family. BTC is also a place to escape everyday life, a place to step outside into roles of characters and be confident as you act and sing around others.
To me, the BTC is a place to be myself, to make relationships that last a lifetime and span multiple grades. BTC means so much to so many. It's amazing to see and be a part of. I love that after school, BTC never feels like one more thing I have to do. It feels like an escape from reality because that's what it is. A place where you can be someone from your favorite book, a student, just a regular person, or a cat with malicious intent. I love BTC, and no one puts BTC in a corner.
To me, the BTC is very special because I did not know where I belonged before joining.
Just because you find that life's not fair, it doesn't mean that you're just up to grin and bear it. If you always take it on the chin and wear it, nothing will change.
When I grow up, when I grow up, when I grow up, I will be strong enough to carry all the heavy things you have to hold around with you when you're a grown up. When I grow up, when I grow up, when I grow up, I will be brave enough to fight the creatures that you have to find beneath the bed each night to be a grown up.
When I grow up, I remember all the amazing people, plays, musical, and activities that BTC has brought to me. I hope to continue this creative art. When I grow up, I'll encourage my kids and family to join a theater and express themselves through theater.
When I grow up, I'm going to remember all the fun times we had together, and I hope in the future I will make more, even though I don't plan on pursuing a career in acting.
When I grow up, I hope to come back and watch some of the productions in the future. I get to see how much the BTC has grown, and that is very exciting. When I grow up, I will take these memories and friendships with me for the rest of my life. This year I'm sure to cry because some of the best friendships I have are with the 8th graders who the spring play will be their last performance, and that breaks my heart.
When I grow up, I will come back to see the new BTCers and their performances. I hope to carry the memories of BTC and the friends that I have made along with me. When I grow up, I will use what I have learned in all my performance experiences. The BTC memories will always be with me.
When I grow up, I will hopefully be able to tell my kids and grandkids about BTC and my experience. I hope to be a good leader and a good example for the new BTCers. I would like to come back to the middle school and tell everyone what a good experience it was. I would like to meet the kids and see their performances too.
When I grow up, I will look back at these happiest days of my life and hopefully be able to say this is what led me to my career and what has shaped me into the person I am today.
When I grow up, I will take these amazing experiences and memories made in BTC and look back on them and see how they made me the person I am today. I will hopefully continue to come back to the middle school to watch all of the BTC productions and support the middle schoolers in BTC.
When I grow up, I will look upon this time with love. I hope to be a high school student coming back to a rehearsal of BTC to watch, give feedback, see all the friends I've made in middle school, and of
of course, brings next.
When I grow up, I wish to become a professional actor so I can inspire kids like how actors inspired me.
When I grow up, when I grow up, when I grow up, I will be strong enough to carry all the heavy things you have to hold around with you when you're a grown up.
My name is Lila Hollingsworth. I'm in 7th grade and I'm a BTCer.
My name is Charlotte Beatty. I'm in 7th grade and I'm a BTCer.
My name is Claire Mallory. I'm in 8th grade and I'm a BTCer.
My name is Evelyn Bishel. I'm in 7th grade and I'm a BTCer.
My name is Emmy Gornick. I'm in 6th grade and I'm a BTCer.
My name is Josiah Rogers. I'm in 6th grade and I'm a BTCer.
My name is Kristen Janik. I am in 8th grade and I am a BTCer.
My name is Claire Binder. I'm in 8th grade and I'm a BTCer.
My name is Agnes Smith.
My name is Agnes Saylor, if you were wondering. I'm in 7th grade and I'm a BTCer.
My name is Carson Muzingo. I'm in 6th grade and I am a BTCer.
So good.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Great job. Great job. Thank you. So nice.
Yeah.
Turn-
BTCers,
Wait,
don't leave. Can we
don't
get
let
a
those get-
picture of you guys?
Oh, you.
And Justin's family too. Oh, you have 5 minutes. Can you do real quick? Justin, family, go. We'll get a recess in 2 seconds. Okay, sorry.
Huh?
And then can we get a picture of all the BTCs? Yeah, come stand here just for a minute. Oh my God, you're like so much fun here. Okay. Can we go to a motion real quick? To recess?
Yes, I've moved.
Yeah, I accept a motion for recess.
Move.
Bill? Okay. Everyone says yes. Okay. I know, mine does that too. I'm not even sure I'm in the meeting. Okay. Let's get the people. To order, we're back. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, so we're at 5A on our agenda. We have to hold a hearing of the tax budget for fiscal year 24. Yes, Mr. Robson.
So the tax budget we prepare, once a year, we submit it to, even though we're in both Cuyahoga and Lorain County, Cuyahoga is our home county, so we submit that to Brian Dunn's group. And really what we're doing is demonstrating to the commission there that we still have a need for the county to assess and collect the tax levies at those rates that we have on the books today. So what they're asking for here is what are our planned revenues and expenditures by fund. The required funds that we report to them are those funds that we generate revenues from through taxes, which are the general fund, the debt retirement fund, which your school facilities were built and improved upon, and then the permanent improvement fund, which is a continuing 1 mil levy out there that allows us to try to maintain the buildings that we have, or maybe acquire buses, those items that have a life expectancy of 5 years or greater. So we're required to report those. For informational purposes, we also report all other funds. Those funds we receive money from a variety of other sources. You know, they may be state grants, federal grants, building activity funds, student activity funds, athletic funds, all those other things. We report to them, but again, it's just informational purposes. We also provide a listing of what are all the levies that we have out there. It's always interesting to me that they want to know the maximum rate that's out there, even though they reduce that down each year or every 3 years based upon the valuation of the district, because those levies are not allowed to produce more dollars than what they were voted in for, but we still provide them with that information. So that is the tax budget. Again, we produce that for them. We demonstrate our need to continue to have those levies assessed and collected. The Budget Commission will take a look at that. They'll stamp their approval. If they have any questions, and really the only questions they may have will come from the standpoint of, hey, we think maybe you're overestimating or greatly underestimating what you think your property tax levies may produce. I'll remind them that, hey, don't forget about that portion we have in Lorain County. They'll say, oh yeah, I forgot about that, and they'll put that in there. So it's really not a big deal, not a big question on there. The other thing that Brian will contact me on periodically, typically once a year, is he'll just confirm what is the balance of our debt that we have out there, because he'll want to make sure that he's collecting enough to satisfy not only the annual obligation, but that we're reserving enough and we'll be collecting enough for the remainder of the term so that we can meet that obligation at the end of 20 years, 25 years, whatever's left on that obligation. He's going to want to adjust that down as time goes on, because he doesn't want to have a big balance in that fund when it's left over. So there'll be probably a little bit of a balance in that. We can use that for something. We could probably buy a bus, although the way the cost of buses are going up, a tire or something. But
Exactly.
he'll have
That might come in sometime in
Yeah,
2024.
we'll get a year
Why
after
not?
that. But they do a really good job in monitoring that fund. He'll just confirm with us what the balance is in that fund, and he's got the amortization schedule out there. We also report the tax anticipation note. I did schedule that out there. I've got it on there. That is a general fund obligation. We're going to pay that off. We said we're paying that off this year, even though it's not due till next year. And we're going to pay that off when we get the collection on this next round of real estate taxes, which I think our first advance is due to come at the end of this month. January 31st is that first scheduled advance payment. So we'll pay that off probably in February. But we list that on there as well. So that is the tax budget. That is the purpose for it. A lot of estimates go in there because it's for fiscal year 24. So it's a ways out there yet. So, any questions on the tax budget? No. Okay. Very good.
Okay. On to our administrative reports. Up first is Mrs. Prugar from PTA. Welcome.
I brought with me Allison Rodag. She's our OECPTA president, so she's going to give a little report for her group, and then I'll finish with.
Yeah, so the OECPTA, we had a really great first half of the year. Fall was jam-packed with family events. We hosted our Halloween trunk or treat, Reflections Art Night, and our annual holiday party featuring a visit from Santa. We even spent a night under the lights for a Bulldogs football game, so that was a lot of fun. We held our fall fundraiser at Raffles, and I just want to say that the support from the community for raffle baskets and sponsorships has been outstanding for us. And they continuously to show up to support us while we give back to them every day. And then the remainder of the year will be just as exciting. We have some programming planned with PBS Kids. So they're going to come in and do some programming for our age group, which is 0 to 4. And then over the next few months, we're going to be in planning mode for Safety Town. So we're going to spruce up some of the buildings that are there and get the dads involved. I mean, they have power tools, so we should be using them. And then we look forward to seeing what the rest of the year is going to hold for us.
All right, so follow up. So they started their teacher grant application. They have money set aside there. They send applications out to all of the teachers. I asked any of those guys can apply for a grant, and they just kind of list, whatever they're looking for their classroom and what they're using it for. And then they, to my knowledge, we started this about 5
Thank you. Are there any questions for PTA? Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Always a great resource. Thank you. Yeah. Dr. DeMarco, Polaris update.
Yes, ma'am. There are several things. One of them ties into this. I'm wondering if, I know Polaris has helped out in the past with updates to things. I'm wondering if they might be able to reach out to Polaris for updates with Safety Town again this year?
I'm totally for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, let's see, we had 2 meetings, I think, since we met last and had an opportunity to talk about things.
Bless you.
So one of those, I guess they all kind of tie together. I just got the most recent applications for next year's class. Last night, we had a Polaris board meeting last night. And we are currently at 119 applications from our sophomore class going to be juniors, which is about 40% of that class. So I have that list with the breakdown of programs if anybody wants to see it, what those look like and which programs they're counting towards. It's not broken down by school, but at least you can kind of see what they are. And then along those lines, if you remember a month or 2 ago, I mentioned that there was a large, I think it was in September, a large drop off of our Olmsted Falls kids that had said they were going to Polaris and then for whatever reason changed their mind. So Polaris has been looking at how they're interacting with those kids, and they do things throughout the time that they say they're coming to when they actually start to try to retain them. But they're trying to start doing that a little bit earlier now so that they can figure out if there's going to be movement, how early they can identify that movement. So if we're having kids apply early to secure a spot, but then they're maybe not sure, they want to try to identify who those kids are earlier so that it's not kind of a shock when they don't show up or if they can fill those seats otherwise. So they're going to start doing that. We're not having a February meeting, but they're hoping to do the superintendent meeting again at the end of February. So last time I think last January or February, Bob came here and met, but he's hoping that we can come there this time because they want to take us into classrooms and have us meet with some of the kids on site. So I can certainly coordinate that. They have some changes that I think he wants to, not necessarily changes, but updates on some of the things we talked about last year. Like they've gotten some funding for some additional student support and career development and advising and things like that. And so they've kind of put a plan together for what that might look like. And I think that that's some of the stuff that they want to talk about. So I know one of the things they're changing, and Kelly, your name came up in this, that they talked to or worked with you about it. They're starting to look at senior connections, and they're using Major Clarity, or they're going to start using Major Clarity, which is not Naviance, but serves a different purpose. And I expressed some concern with how that might be integrated or received, or if it's a duplication of services. We don't want to create extra work, but so I think there's a lot to talk about there. But a lot of it is looking at students who don't have a plan when they're leaving here. So they're trying to do some different things to identify some of those students. And I have some of those materials here if anybody would like to see them. They put on and we passed a resolution last night that supports the expansion of Polaris to additional school districts just based on programs and numbers. And I don't think I'm sharing anything secret, but the plan with that is that they are trying to pursue a partnership with Lakewood so that they can expand towards the north and essentially set up another site in Lakewood.
Really?
At the current Lakewood site. So it would be almost more of a.
That's news to me.
So they've had conversations with the current board president who was just newly elected and.
The new board president in Lakewood. So what's interesting about that, if I could interject just a couple thoughts. Lakewood serves as the career tech for Bay Village, Rocky River, and Westlake. And what's interesting, and I don't know if the board knows this or not, but the way in which the resources are generated for Polaris are through a 2 mil automatic push to Polaris, whereas in Lakewood, it's not that. It's not a property tax thing. It's a tuition thing that's paid. So I would be interested to hear from Polaris, Mr. Timmons, and the rest of them as far as how that is going to work out. Because I think of the number of students, what did you say, 119?
Of our kids?
Yeah, 119 of our current, I mean, I'm trying to think of what our current Polaris enrollment is, and I don't know it off the top of my head. But just a quick kind of math problem, a mill is worth 560,000. So that times 2 is $1.1 million, and you think of how many students do we have in at Polaris? Let's just divide whatever that may happen to be, and then that's the per pupil cost. So for Lakewood, I wonder what their tuition cost is for a particular program compared to the 2 mills that we're giving, and how that is going to reconcile itself. So those are the questions that I would have if I were sitting there listening and asking. So
Perhaps in February,
maybe,
we can have a conversation.
yeah,
I don't know
It
all
won't
the
be popular,
logistics behind that. I'm sure it won't.
yeah,
It's okay.
yeah.
And it's early in the conversation. I don't recall who they met with. They've done a bunch of studies or data collection
Yeah.
and things, and they started talking to Lakewood, which then, of course, they'd have to talk to the other schools that are in partnership
Yeah.
to determine if they do that. But apparently, they're not doing, or Lakewood's not doing necessarily very well with their programming or with their enrollment.
I think that, the population in sort of like the familial view of what career tech is, may be viewed as more of a JV. I mean, we need to break through that. I mean, you heard from the student panel, right? As far as their views on.
Ag, Bay Village, Rocky River.
Yeah, that's always a challenge for enrollment. Yeah. So, I mean, it's an opportunity. I think it's a real good opportunity.
One of
For sure.
the things that they did was some surveying in the communities to find out what the perception of career tech is. And I know that that's some of the data that he's going to share.
Yeah, I'd be
So,
curious to know what that would look like.
But here as well, so like in all their
Mhm.
existing communities. So some more to come.
Okay.
Put that on the agenda for February.
That's very
when we
cool.
get together and
Exciting.
share. They also announced last night that they are in the stages of developing an LPN program. And that will be a continuing ed program, but it will be a segue for the students that are in the STNA, like our high school program. And so they have the opportunity, they'll get priority placement
Great.
in that program. But they're partnering with Southwest.
Mhm.
So
Nice.
Southwest is on board, they're supporting it, they're providing clinical sites. And of course, if those students, LPNs, then stay there, then they'll get support through the rest of their
Great.
education. So they have a lot of things that they're working on. That might be most of everything that was important. They are doing website redesign, and they're hoping that they can, when that's done, the website's updated, that we can provide links on our website to Polaris if there is not one already. So. I think that's it.
That's great. That's a lot.
That is a lot. 2 meetings worth.
Any questions for Dr. DeMarco? Thank you, Jody. Mr. Zeller?
Thank you. We've been having a lot of discussions regarding staffing. Primarily, the driver right now is looking toward next year and who our new ECC principal will be and what that posting will be, what that will look like, the process for that. Had a lot of conversations with that, and with Dr. Lloyd about trying to get out there and get out early so we can get a nice candidate pool to get the best candidate in the ECC. We have a number of other positions that we'll probably be looking at as well. Those postings, we're trying to figure out the timing for some of those to make sure that we're hitting at the right time. We don't want to go too early because like student teachers, they just got into their classrooms now. So they're a little overwhelmed on learning how to lesson plan and teach as they get farther along and start looking for jobs that we want to hit that group. So we're looking at by March, early April to get the majority of our postings out based on the assumption that we have strong staffing numbers put together for next year. The other thing that I have is yesterday, the camera scholarship, which camera's the consortium that we're involved in. I sent out the notification to our classified staff and our guidance department for scholarships that are available for both students and staff. They range between $500 and $1,500 for anyone who is interested in becoming an educator. I made it a point in the distribution to, even though it's a minority educator recruitment association that we're in, that shouldn't stop any of our students or staff from applying. Because we're a part of the consortium, everyone is welcome to apply and be considered for the scholarships. I think last year, Camera gave out 13 scholarships, so they are competitive. But most of the people who had applied were able to get those scholarships, and some of the scholarships were awarded to like paraprofessionals who have decided to go back to school to become educators. And that all fits into what I pretty much talk about every time we're here, as just trying to find candidates in our candidate pool. So that's why I sent it out to all classified staff, because we may have someone working in the cafeteria that is thinking about becoming a teacher, and $500 to $1,500 isn't a lot when you consider college, but money's money. So I hope that we can draw some applicants to that scholarship. I don't know that we have done so in the past, but it would be nice to have Olmsted Falls represented when those awards are given. With that scholarship application, we tried to get it out there early enough, so if any of our students are awarded the scholarship, it should be able to be presented at the senior awards night as well. So that's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Zell? All right, great. Thanks, Brian. Mrs. Cogan?
Hi, everyone. Tonight you have your second read of the program of study, so you'll be finalizing your vote for that. I know Jody had emailed me about a couple of issues, so I'm checking with Kenny on those. I'm not sure. Polaris is the one who gives us the information to put in our program of study, so I'm not sure why that particular course was not listed.
It was listed in the bottom, the Polaris list. It wasn't listed in our pathways towards the top.
Gotcha. Okay, so it just needed to be added into the pathways.
Yeah, sorry.
So I forwarded that to Kenny, so I'll clarify that with him. And also just to let you know that Kim is working with, I believe, Allerton, correct? Yeah, getting some quotes. We're trying to kind of make our program of study more digital. And so like you could actually click something, if you want to see what the art courses are, you click a link and it takes you directly to the art page, so you don't have to like scroll through 60 pages of the program of study. So we're trying to make it more user friendly and add some graphics so it looks a little bit better than it does. So the goal is to try to have that available for when that program of study is pushed out to our families in the middle of February. So as soon as that is done and complete, I will make sure I point you in that direction so you could also look it over. It's not going to change the content of what you're approving. It's just going to make it look a little bit better. You'll also see that maybe you're thinking deja vu. We have the 23-24 calendar again for another vote for you. There might have been a little bit of an error in the ending date. So we have checked, rechecked, triple checked, and so that calendar that you have attached now will, fingers crossed, be the last calendar that you should be approving for 23-24. And then it'll feel like in a couple months you'll be approving the 24-25 because we like to get that out at least a year in advance. This one's been held up a little bit, but we're hoping to get back on track where we have that out for families.
I have seen a lot of people on social media asking,
Yeah,
like,
they're asking
cause they want to, yeah.
Could you talk to the fact or the process that we use in order to quickly to create that? And then Dr. DeMarco asked the question of the additional professional development days and what was the genesis of that?
So the way in our contract, the union contract, it actually states that the calendar will be collaboratively worked on. So we work on that in the OFEA labor management. We usually ask them for some people that want to sit in from their group, and usually your calendar is how many days you need, how many hours. You kind of go through and you work backwards, forward. This particular 23-24 calendar was a little bit different because we had the opportunity to speak with OFEA, and it was an OFEA concern as much as it was also our concern on our end we are really struggling with being able to get substitute teachers for us to pull teachers out. And I don't mean, when I think about professional development, our normal professional development, when we're pulling teachers out of the classroom, it is usually a grade level, a department. It is anywhere from 6 to 10 teachers, maybe 15 for district leadership, teams. We're trying to pull people together during the school day. In the past, we would put those requests for subs out weeks in advance, and we would have them filled, and everybody would have a sub, and we wouldn't have any problems. We would pull the teachers out and we would meet. And what we're finding over the last couple of years is that when we do that, it ends up that on that particular day of the professional development, we have teachers who don't have subs, so no one ever picked up their position. And then we run okay, well, you stay behind because you don't have a sub, so you can't participate in the professional development. And sometimes I can't say you stay behind because it might be the dyslexia training, which they're required to attend that in order to meet the requirement by the state. So then principals are scrambling to try to figure out who's going to cover those classes. And so what we talked about was the idea that since the state a few years ago went from days to hours for requirement, Tim Wolf, who's the EMIS coordinator, put a chart together for us. I'm happy to share that if you wanted to look at that, which shows the number of hours that are required by grade level, and then the number of hours that our students are in school on a traditional calendar. And interestingly enough, because you multiply by the number of hours that that student spends in the school, Mr. Kurz and I joke that at the middle school, I think he's over by 27 days. He could actually have 27 days off and still meet the hour requirements for his 6th grade, and I think he's 18 days for 7th and 8th grade. So our students, because when they make that switch, we are well above what is required. We know that it's most important for students to be in school, community learning, but at the same time, we recognize that having, a principal fill in, having somebody fill in on their planning, it's not the same as having a substitute teacher who's in there, who's running that class for the day. Some of those kids are seeing 4 adults in one day come in and out of their classroom to cover their class. So it's not the best environment for them. So when we got together with OPA at the beginning of this year, we talked about, is it possible to add in 4 additional professional development days where students are not in session, still be well above those hour requirements, but allow us to take some of those meetings, like teachers want days to go work on the design work. They now won't have to do that during, not to say that there will be no professional development during the school day, we still will have to do that, but there will be less of that because we will push those types of things to the days when it's a professional development day. So, and we try, in working with the OPA, we try to look at where those would fall, so it almost looks like 1 per quarter for us. We also try to put those on Fridays for parents that are kind of backed up to a holiday, thinking that that might be something that families already were planning on potentially, not having to work on Monday, taking the Friday off. And I would foresee that having those 4 additional professional development days would be something that we would carry on in future calendars, like this isn't just a one and done. And looking at surrounding school districts, we're not like crazy above the amount of professional development days. We cannot in this district, because we bus everybody from K through 12, we cannot do early release and late starts. Transportation wise, it's a nightmare. So we're really kind of, our hands are tied if we need to do that, especially with our younger students, those buildings. So this just ended up being something that we thought would be best for actually the teachers and the students.
So when we do professional development, is it like, I'm just curious, is it like typically like a whole day, or is it, I'm talking like now, like, not with this new
So
system.
it depends,
Yeah, it depends on what they're on the work that they're working
Well,
on, I get it.
part of it is contractually driven, so as the contract reads right now with the OFEA, there are 5 professional development days that are on there, and 3 of them are essentially district controlled. One of them, and part of that has to deal with the very first part of the school year for convocation and other different things. There's one that is a staff in service day that's generally in January or February, and this year it's in February. And then the last one is in May. So we control the first 3. The 4th one is leave us alone day. I mean, it's an in-service day that we don't plan, and then the last one is collaboratively planned. So there are those, and then these 4 additional ones are really, some of them, there will be partial days for teachers to be able to work on the work, individually and not administratively controlled. But the other ones will be building-based with consultation with central office and things, but on the work that they've been working on.
Okay.
So that will be kind of the new model that we'll have moving forward.
Yeah, and like, so tomorrow, we have Kate Divino coming in, working in Falls Monarchs with our first and third grade teachers. We have 12 teachers, 6 in the morning and 6 in the PM, who will be coming out and then going into Emily Herman's room, modeling the Leaders and Writers Workshop, coming out and working with our consultant. That could be something where we might work with Lisa to say for next year, is that something we might want to move to one of those building-based days? Because we're working on instructional strategies, where we don't have to, like, tomorrow, I keep looking at the fill rate, we have 2 who don't have subs. So I hate for them to have to miss that, especially if you're bringing someone in that you're paying money for. Come in, you want to get as many of those teachers at the table. So that's an example, but yeah, they're all.
Yeah, and the dyslexia training is another one that's a requirement, and that is, it's a good idea. I don't know if it's gonna turn into a good policy because of the impact that it's gonna have on us. We've always done a lot with literacy and things to begin with, so we'll see how that goes, but that's an intensive training program, as well. So it depends on the grade level and building.
So once we approve it tonight, will we release it
Yes,
pronto?
so the only thing that is not on there, and we're hoping to have that, actually, we clarified that what we need to do, the one you see says preschool to be determined for date. But we have decided that preschool will start, the same day as, the 1st through 9th grade students, so that day right after our 3 professional development days, and they will end, at the same time as kindergarten, and the rest of the district. So we'll be adding that, and that will be the only change you would see, on that calendar, but that is it. And graduation is on that calendar, it is May 30th. So as always,
Really?
we'll send that invite to you to get it on your calendar. And then, as you know, since now it's outside, Leo's working on the 3 days afterwards, that will be the rain days, if we needed to move it, so.
Yeah, are we still sticking with that plan?
That's the plan, and the plan is now that we have, turf there, that we have to make certain that we put down, something that will allow our warranty to continue to be there for our turf. You can't just drop a bunch of chairs in there, because it voids everything. Yeah, so we're working on that as well. But just the feedback from parents and students and you guys as well was it's a nice event to have it there within our stadium, and I think with the added
we've
turf.
been blessed the last 2 years with good
Yes,
weather.
very much so. We
The
have.
first rain out we get, we're gonna be like, this is a bad idea.
That's what'll happen.
It's all like that, we're gonna be
Absolutely,
basically
that's how it's gonna go down. Yeah.
Back to the Wolf team.
So, so that's it. So that'll hopefully be up on the website. We're gonna try to get that out, tomorrow. Yeah, then there's a
Again, I've just seen a lot of chatter, like,
There is.
what,
Yeah, I get
you
it.
know?
And that's why we'll try to, and then you'll see me coming back in a couple months, and I'll be giving you the 24, 25 calendar.
Yeah.
Collaboratively with them again, and, have that for you. Any other questions?
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mrs. Cogan? All righty, Mr. Robson.
So I'll start with a bit of bad news, and based on everyone's presence here, we probably share the same in that none of us were winners in the Mega Millions.
I was like, what the heck is the bad news?
Nor were we
North
one
Olmsted.
of 2 Ohioans that potentially got the $1 million.
Great.
But we're strong, and we're gonna try again on Friday. My kids taught me how to send an emoji with text. It was that Mrs. Newman that showed me that. So if you get one from me late Friday night, early Saturday morning.
Then we know.
Never see you
then
again.
you know, right?
Start the new treasurer search.
1.3 billion. What do you do with that?
Oh, my gosh.
1.3.
I can figure it out.
You build a legacy is what you do.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what you do, you build a legacy.
That's right, my friend.
Don't worry, I'd let Olmsted Falls City Schools have it.
There you
You
go.
guys make a
There
donation
you
or
go.
something.
I'm thinking,
Three
I'm I'm thinking Homestead Falls City Schools is gonna get a piece of that by you living here anyway, right?
I live in the
Yeah, thank you.
township.
Thank you.
There is no
Oh,
income
okay,
tax.
okay.
And I would make
Yeah,
sure I
yeah.
bought the ticket in the
That's
township.
right. Mr. Funk, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you, and we look forward to several years of you serving on the board here. It's a pleasure to have you. And if you have any questions, always feel free to call. If you have trouble sleeping, call me and we will talk school finance.
Mm.
And you'll
That's
be
gonna-
out like a
That's gonna
light.
take care of that.
That's
It's like
what I'm thinking
melatonin.
about.
Absolutely.
It's better than melatonin.
Betcha.
We'll be out.
Betcha.
Yeah, we'll put you out. We ended the month of December 2022, revenue exceeded plan for the month by 244,000. We got homestead exemption in a little bit earlier than we anticipated. Cash flow estimates for the remainder of fiscal year 23 remain favorable. We're running approximately $352,000 ahead of forecast. By comparison, revenues were up $289,000 compared to the same period last year. And we're $264,000 higher fiscal year to date. Expenditures exceeded plan for the month of February by $40,000. I would say that's pretty doggone close. We'll call that a wash. Expenditures were down $358,000 over the same period last year, and they're $2.3 million higher fiscal year to date by comparison for the same period last year. Salaries and benefits and purchase services are those primary drivers as they have been, and they were expected to be. General fund cash balance at the end of December was $8.39 million compared to $6.57 million for the same period last year. Our projected fiscal year-end cash balance remains on target, roughly $74,000 ahead of plan. So we're right where we thought we would be this time this year. Tax budget, we had that hearing a little bit ago. One thing I didn't point out was the next action we'll see that comes from that is the Budget Commission will submit a resolution to us to adopt late February. You'll probably see it on the March agenda, and that'll be the resolution for authorizing them to assess and collect those taxes at those rates. So we'll see that coming up shortly. Excess cost, we submitted our claims for reimbursement to the state. These are for those students that we served last year that did not reside in our district. Primarily, we'll say they were court-placed foster kids that required special services, special needs services, speech, hearing, OTPT, those types of services that exceeded the funding that the state had provided through the formula. Seven students, $20,000. That's what we submitted for. That's what we should receive. Districts have 30 days. The resident district has 30 days to review our claim because they'll be charged for those costs, and they can appeal. If they appeal, which they won't, we can discuss that, and ODE will be the mediator on that, and we'll decide how that works. If there is a dispute, it's typically how many days was a student in our district, and that's pretty simple process. A good item to talk about, I think at this time, is the track replacement project. You know, that's been on our radar for a while. I think that current track's been there for what, over 20 years? 20
Yeah, I
years.
think it's like 23.
And that thing's crumbling underneath. We talked about it, you know, when we were going through the turf project. It's on the 5-year forecast. I had allocated, I think for next year, roughly $300,000 for that. Heath has been working with a couple different vendors and getting quotes on that. He's getting those back now. Those costs are coming in a little bit higher, like everything else has, higher than what we thought they were going to be last year. I think we're looking at $575-ish for a middle of the road type track. My view is that's a district asset, just like your building, your gym floors, HVAC windows, and it's something that we need to maintain and take care of. I think a track life is typically 13 to 15 years from what they tell us. And that thing, I mean, you can literally pick it up, and when you pick it up, it crumbles. It's bad.
It's really bad. And part of it too, yeah, is with this one is that what stunned me was the asphalt, cost that was estimated. I mean, it's a $270,000 cost to grind the track down and then to replace the asphalt, because that's what needs to be replaced. And then it's the track on top of that is $300,000 to $350,000 or 370, somewhere around there.
So, you know, the other thing that we're looking at now is, you know, you wanna get in line with those companies if you wanna have that work done over the summer and have it in place for next year. So, you know, I think, you know, personally, that's the route we should go. You know, I think we need to get in line with that vendor, and bear that cost.
With support, I think, you know, thankfully we have an athletic booster group that has the capacity to raise resources and has indicated that they have a willingness to donate some resources towards that. We have resources that are generated through the scoreboard fund, that after the scoreboard is paid off, which I think it might be this year. If you recall, those that were on the board whenever that went down, that was 75% of the resources that were coming in for advertisement went to pay for the board. 25% went as a set aside for discretionary kinds of things, and I think now that's paid off this year, which would mean any revenue that would come in from the scoreboard would be available to, you know, there's the bank of what's currently there, and then anything moving forward could go towards that. I have potentially the use of some discretionary resources from city, county, much like wrote a check for the turf project for like $30,000. So there may be potentially $50,000 there. So, you know, if you think like the boosters could raise 75, we could, you know, get another $50,000 from discretionary from city, county. You know, you're still looking at, though, a $500,000 expense from the district coffers in order to pay for that.
But we already have in the budget allocated 300.
I had plugged in 300,000 from conversations that we had the prior year of what that anticipated cost was gonna be.
So let's just roughly say we've come up with another 300,000.
I would say that's about what it would be. That's a safe plan.
You know, and the other thing is too, I think the further we push that out, that cost is just gonna go up. It's inevitable, you're gonna have to replace that track, and it's not gonna get any cheaper.
And it's bad.
To patch that thing,
We'll show you if you want those things. I mean, Heath and Dan have done a great job of taking pictures of that. Those who've had kids run on it know exactly what happens when there's water. The water's not supposed to sit there. The water's supposed to drain. And what happens is that you have like Bulldog Lake that is a 400-meter circle.
We certainly don't want the kids to be unsafe on it.
Yeah, I had a conversation actually with Coach Novotny recently, just because I ran into him at the gym, and he said that there's some concern that now the sort of ledge that's there from the turf is making it worse.
which is I think is part of the increased cost, is laying that asphalt underneath, the amount of asphalt needed to get that leveled and banked to where the water runs properly and off.
It was bad last year, but yeah, eventually you do become a safety issue with the kids running on it, and can't have to run on it. I'm not the one who decides. I would certainly not be qualified to say what.
You mean ideally, you replace your field and track at the same time, but because we had to like shake down the world for all those resources and write a grant for the field, you know, you couldn't do that. We didn't have the resources to do the track. Thankfully, we were able to get the field done outside of the district's resources, but for the track, it's going to have to be within the district's coffers, along with support from a couple of ancillary chests, so to speak.
So I'm just curious, and this sort of has nothing to do with this, but it is in general about our general fund. Is that, so like there was, we had a communication it was a few months ago, I think, about the door replacement at middle school. And that was like, it was funny when I was reading the email, I'm like, okay, so it'll be about $30,000. No, it was like $300,000, right? So like, where are we at? How does that fit in? Because Right,
Permanent improvement funds.
okay, I mean, you know, because right there, 300 for the track and 300 for doors, we're almost $1 million
Well, the
without
good
even
news
thinking about
is-
it, that we weren't potentially,
Yeah,
that we weren't planning on.
And that wasn't planned to come out of the general fund. I think school safety funds and permanent improvement funds,
Mhm.
and we're gonna take care of a variety of these other projects.
And that cost for the middle school doors was significantly decreased because that was if AVG and our architects ran that project.
Right.
We are not going to do that, so as a result, that price, I wanna say gets cut in half, but it's
Okay,
close to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure where we were at with that, and like, did we have money for that, like, right? Cause you could blink and spend $1 million without, you know.
Oh, for our you could spend actually, you could spend 16.5 million actually. And that would, and then some of it you would look at and go, what did you do? What'd you spend that on? Cause you don't see the stuff.
No,
So what
right.
will be coming up for the board will be this master facility study that's going to be done. And when it relates to pictures and other sorts of things, you're gonna get a lot of that. Heath and Dan and all of our custodial, Larry and the rest of them are taking pictures of those things to show you what those things looks
Right.
at. One of the ones that you can see and that everyone else can see is the track. So,
Right.
and that's one that we're gonna need to, that is in the queue, and
Was that roughly March, the site thought he would?
yes, that's the hope, right? And that would serve as the primary, discussion point for the board at the retreat, is to
Right.
talk about facilities, long-term things.
Mhm.
So, I mean, expect, us to bring something to you guys as it relates to the track.
Right, okay.
And, we won't need to go to public bid for that because we will use.
They're part of the consortium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good, but we need to get, as Mr. Robson said, in line in order to get that done.
Calendar year end, those tasks are near completion. I think actually the only two tasks we have, or I do know, the only two tasks we have left are to file electronically 1099s and W-2 with the IRS and the Social Security Administration. We've got those files. It's a new process for us this year. With our switch to Meta, we have to do that ourselves. Connect used to do that for us. We'd create the files, send them to them, and we were done. But we do that now. So we had to go through the whole registration process with those two organizations, which we completed. We had our conference call today with Meta. They walked us through that. It's a very simple task, fortunately for a guy like me. And we'll get that done this week, so we'll be all finished. A lot of stress and anxiety at calendar year end. It's just a lot of tasks that have to be done in a short period of time in order for Char then to do her first payroll of the year, which she finished about 4 o'clock this afternoon for payroll on Friday. So she got that submitted. So if you happen to see Char, Allison, Holly on the street, in the store,
Give them an
pat them on
atta girl.
the back and tell them, nice job, we appreciate everything you're doing. That would go a long way. They do a great job, and we appreciate everything that they do. School funding, with the new group we have down there in Columbus, there's a lot of changes going on. I think a lot of changes in the House, a lot of things being repealed. Dr. Lloyd sat in on the legislative, and he may be talking about.
Yeah, I have that on my queue, but yeah.
But,
Can talk about it.
fair school funding, was supposed to be the be-all, save-all. It made it through 2 years. It got funded in the end at about 33%. And the general sense is that it's gonna be repealed and pulled out. I'm not gonna get too excited about that yet, too anxious about that yet, because it didn't really do anything for us. It didn't give us any additional funds anyway. My hope is, even if they come out with a flat dollar amount, I'm okay with that. If they give us some inflationary relief, that would be wonderful to me. But if Governor DeWine wants to continue to give us additional dollars for purposes that we're truly benefiting from. Student wellness and success funds have been tremendous for us. Assistance in school bus purchasing has been wonderful for us. We hear word on the street there's going to be another round of school safety dollars available to us. That's great. You know, give us what you can. We'll take more on school funding. But if you want to continue these other routes too, we benefit from those dollars as well. So I'm not going to get overly excited. You'll hear a lot, you'll see a lot in the papers about fair school funding, but we'll just kind of hold pat on our, what our end reaction is until we really hear what that final budget's going to look like. And that's not going to be till June 29th.
Is that when,
It's got to be in place by July 1st.
I remember when it was like, remember, it was a few years ago, they were like,
and that's going to
they
be
kicked the
norm.
can, they couldn't get it together.
The reality is, school funding, like any other department in the state of Ohio, is residual. Whatever dollars are there, they're gonna divvy them up and try to take care of all the departments as best they can, or however they, whatever the nature of the group is. And, but again, we're benefiting directly from a lot of these other programs. I'm happy. We'll always take more, but the per student thing, and, of course, I can get political and say I'm not a voucher fan too. That's taken away from public education harshly. But, we'll battle that when we get some more information. So, any questions?
Thanks so much, Brad. Dr. Lloyd.
A few things. One, you just approved the calendar for the board meetings, and certainly I was invited to go, and I'm going to go to the National Superintendent's Conference. It's on February 15th through the 18th, and so the 16th is the date when it's a board meeting, and so we can talk about that, whether that would need rescheduled or you could just go with that. It's in San Antonio, and one of the main topics on it is accountability and true accountability in the work that John Tanner and the rest of the group has done, and we're part of that. So I'm gonna attend that. I've never attended that conference. I'm not a big national conference person. I find them not to be very worthwhile at all. But for this one, I'm gonna go, and I feel a need to represent. So just wanted to let you know that. There's a couple of emails that I had received about the Title IX document that came from the state superintendent, the interim state superintendent, and the Ohio School Board. I just wanted to just briefly just mention something about that. I thought it was interesting in the cover letter that was sent on by the interim state superintendent, and the resolution by the board outlined what the cover letter needed to say, which I also find pretty interesting. But I shared it for your edification, and I guess I'd say this, that it disappoints me that the State Board of Education would waste its time deliberating and talking about things like a resolution that marginalizes groups of people. And I've said this to you before, and I've said it in other places, that any time a piece of legislation is proposed, whether that piece of legislation is federally driven or it's driven by the state level, I always ask the question of, will this piece of legislation help me, enable me, and others to inspire and empower kids, right? And if not, regardless of political affiliation, and I don't even know where I'm on that spectrum at this particular point in time, if the answer is no, then I feel a duty and an obligation to speak out against it. Outside of the fact that it is an absolute waste of time and taxpayer resources that they talked about this for weeks, this particular resolution does nothing other than to, I think, marginalize groups of people, in particular our LGBTQ plus students, which exist. They have names, they have faces. I've met with them. They have parents who love them and who are working through things and struggling with what it means to a family that doesn't know exactly how to navigate through those things. But I just read the resolution, and there's just interesting, and in fact, I just think just silly kinds of things when they talk about pain and suffering, pain experienced by those suffering with gender dysmorphia, suffering, right? I mean, that sounds like cancer to me. And so there's just language that's in there that I think is just unnecessary. It's not, we look back there at our be safe, be respectful, be responsible, and be kind. It goes against kind of really what our mantra is with that, and then our overall vision of inspiring and empowering kids. So, what I did was, as I'm sitting there thinking, like, what can I do that's not gonna use swear words? So I ripped it up, and it was just demonstrative. And so I had a parent. I'm gonna forward you an email from a parent that reached out to me about it and wanted to talk about my view on that and a few other things. I have my own personal views on matters, but ultimately, as a school superintendent, it's my job to advocate for kids, for all kids, including the ones that have the quietest voice, I think probably more than anything. And so that's the reason why I did what I did. So the actual federal document from Title IX and the expansion of it is really under, I think, in the courts at this particular point in time. I'm looking at 2 lawyers in the room. I mean, that's where it is. And so, the Biden administration tried to expand that. And then there are others down there that said you can't do that. And so the State Board of Education comes out with a resolution, against that as well. And so I'm not going to go against the federal law, and I'm not going to go against our students either. And that doesn't mean that I'm disrespectful to the parents that may have a different belief than that. It just means that I need to advocate for those kids. So I don't know if you have any questions about any of that or anything, but I just wanted to share that with you. Okay. Our work on, speaking of things of this ilk, cultural humility continues. We're going to work with Dr. Knight and establish dates for student assemblies to talk about cultural humility and really how we can establish more of a culture of belonging and really listening and learning from other people. It doesn't mean that we necessarily have to agree with what everybody else says and that we can all go and, that there are no rules, so to speak, but we do need to be respectful of other people's views and kind of what they bring to the table and be curious and need to listen to them. So working with both Mark and Leo on that, that'll be at a middle school and high school level. Also working with Julianne Allen, who is our parent engagement specialist on parent assemblies as well, talk to our parents more about cultural humility kinds of issues. So we have that going on. As Brett indicated, we had the meeting there were a group of superintendents that had a meeting with Ohio legislators. Now, the Northeast Ohio ESC really, I think, has 5 different counties associated with it. So of all the 5 counties, they invited senators and House reps there to that. And interestingly, not one Republican showed to that, which I found just personally disappointing that would be the case. But I think, as Mr. Robson indicated, there's some interesting. You still saw what happened at the national level as it relates to the House Speaker. There was a little bit of a show down at the State House as well as it related to the House Speaker. And you'll be reading more about that in the paper as well as far as how that's going to work itself out. And that may be one of the reasons why, is because until that speaker is determined, they don't know who's going to serve on which committees and essentially who's going to have the voice. But nevertheless,
It's disgusting.
I was really disappointed again by that. But there were people in the house in that meeting who were there. Bride Sweeney is one that was there and represents our area. I've had the opportunity to talk to her a few different times. She is a Democrat. She is on the House Finance Committee and things. And so, the topics that Brett talked about were the ones that we talked about as well. The school funding formula and what that's going to look like. And they don't believe that it's dead, but they believe that it's in jeopardy because Matt Huffman has his own, I'm gonna have my own version of what this is. And sadly, it was deliberated on and created in a bipartisan manner with superintendents and treasurers. And so to throw that out and have like the Matt Huffman plan, which I don't think he's necessarily Warren Buffett or anything. He's going to create a finance plan. I find just arrogant and amazing. But so hopefully that won't die, and it might continue. You have, if you remember, there were 4 different studies that were coming from that were commissioned as a result of that fair funding formula, and I think that data is going to come in. So hopefully that discussion will happen in the House. Where it would get nuked would be in the Senate. In my opinion, the House used to be kind of off the rails in some ways, and now the Senate is in a different kind of way as well. The universal voucher should concern you greatly. I certainly would love for the ODE to give us $5,500 per student and $7,500 per high school student and have our own voucher system. We don't get that. We get around $3,300. So when they're talking about funding, these ancillary kind of subsystems, I'm all for school choice and competition and all those other different things, but I don't think you get a coupon to send your kid to another school. So if you really dig into universal vouchers and look at the intent of it, I believe that the intent is to, undermine public education and to really get rid of public schools. And I know that some hardline Republicans think that that's like a crazy liberal tree hugging idea, but as a moderate person, I think that there's a lot of truth to that. So you should be concerned if the universal voucher goes through, and I have a feeling because they have the super duper majority that may very well happen. And they have a lot of money down there at this particular point in time. So we may not lose money, and that's what they'll say, you didn't lose anything, but they're not going to give us additional resources, and they're going to fund subsystems as opposed to putting it into what the Constitution requires them to do. My whole thing is change the Constitution. If you want to create subsystems, ask the people if they want to create subsystems, change the Constitution and be done with it. But they don't want to do that. They have a super majority and they can do what they want. They will resurrect, I think it was like the House bill that was going to, the Senate bill, I believe it was going to just essentially disintegrate the Ohio School Board, the state board, and all of the powers that they have. That it will be resurrected tomorrow. They will call it Senate Bill 1. Bill Reinke will pull that out, and it will get large support, and it could very well go through. If it does go through, then you'll see a state where the governor has a cabinet position and a group of pretty conservative Republicans are going to control education, and I think that would be a bad thing for Ohio. For one reason is you don't get to, like now you can go down to the state board and you can go to their board meetings and you can put your name in there and you can talk and you can testify. Once it becomes a cabinet position and it's put, you don't get the opportunity to, as a citizen, to go and talk. You have to work through your legislatures. And when you look at how public education is viewed by the majority group in Ohio, it's not viewed in a favorable way, and you're not going to have any voice. And so you'll have what the citizens of Ohio think, and then what those are elected in those chairs are going to do. And I think that's a pretty big concern that we have. So I'm concerned about the life of public education and how it currently exists in Ohio. I certainly think that things need to be changed. I have no love for the Ohio Department of Ed. I think they're one of the most dysfunctional organizations in the world. But I think that part of that is driven by the place that they've been put in by those who are part of both the Senate and the House. So the legislative liaison that we have is looking forward to her reports as she comes and gives us that information. Right? As Brian indicated, we have a couple administrative positions that are open, one of which is the ECC principal. That's an important position. We'll look to have, recreate the kind of process that we used before. We had 3 groups, if you'll recall: a community group, an administrative group, and a staff group. And so I've already asked PTA and Jen Prugar for a couple volunteers there. We'll pull some other parent folks, and we'll create a community group too. And so I will write to the board and give you information about how we're going to do that. But that's in the future. that's really about it. There was one thing that Dr. DeMarco asked about, and it was we can't talk about individuals, but we can talk just theoretically about how this works. We have some staff members out on FMLA, and when they're out on FMLA, they have certain stipend and supplemental contracts associated with them. So let's pretend, perhaps, that somebody is a department head, and when they're a department head, I believe, I don't know if we're spreading that pay for something that is a continual thing, but for a department head, we might very well spread that out over the course of the school year. Whereas something that is like, I'm a coach in the fall or the spring, you get paid at the end of that. So that's how a stipend or supplement so that's how that would work. The problem would occur, or could occur, is if you have somebody that's getting a stipend for something like a particular club and a supplemental that's going to go over the course of the entire year, and this person or a person could be out on intermittent kind of family medical leave. And so then you have the, there's what you want to do. Like if you're not going to do the work or you can't do the work, then you shouldn't get paid. But then you're discriminating against somebody with potentially who's on leave for a disability. And then so what you do is you, like any good treasurer or superintendent would do, or HR person, you ask your attorney as far as what they think that you should do. And they're like, okay, you can play it this way or this way. This way is the least costly. Or you can pay us a lot of money and we're going to fight it for you. And so at this particular point in time, sometimes you just live to fight another day, and you have a particular stipend that you might pay for a particular club, and the person's not available to do that. You put that person into place, and then they're the one that's going to do it. Because this person was doing it sometimes, not all the time, you may have to pay both people. So like a $1,500 cost to a person to do a job that was unanticipated may be better than a $10,000 legal bill to try to fight that. So you have to determine, like, when are we going to do that and when are we not going to do that. So I sum that up kind of like mostly, and I think answer your question without like breaking confidentiality.
Going forward, you would address and say contract negotiations?
I would address it in negotiations. There are a number of different things that we have out there.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying that's the number one priority.
No, but it's on the list. I mean, what you do, Kelly, is we have negotiations like in another year, and so we all have like our list going, as far as the things that we want to talk about. And I don't want to say they, but the group that we're negotiating with has a list as well, and we sit down and we talk about those things. Yeah, exactly. So, and there was agreement in you should get paid for the things that you do and you shouldn't for the things that you don't. But ultimately, it's the district that's on the hook for that, and it's not the other group. So we think that's the right way to handle it, and that's kind of how we handle it. That's all I have. That was fun.
That was a lot, and most of it was sad.
I would say this. Yeah, it was. But when you think about like what we saw here today, as far as like Eric Barkowski was hired, and he's one of my favorite hires that I ever had. I immediately had a crush on him whenever we were hiring him, and I was so proud. So proud that we got him. Mark remembers that because you're in the room, and I'm like, we're getting that, dude. I don't care what you say. Sorry. What'd you say?
You were giving him books.
I was, yeah.
Was he winking at him too?
Bulldog Theater Company doesn't exist unless Eric Barkowski is hired as the teacher.
Yeah.
And so when you think of the value that a person brings to the table, not only in the classroom, but their ability to kind of like create opportunities for kids and unify them, and you listen, like you think like hopes and dreams and future, like that is incredible kinds of things. And those are the things for me is what's awesome about being part of Olmsted Falls School. So regardless of budget and federal laws and everything else, that's the reason why you do what we do, because that was incredible.
Yeah.
So
He does a really good
how's
job.
that? Did I just throw some love back into
You
the
did.
room? Okay.
You did. Yeah, absolutely. Yes,
So
of
as
course.
a legislative liaison, that I should probably do something like this year. We had talked last year,
Yeah.
at some point in the fall, about whether or not the board should do some type of resolution regarding school funding, regarding vouchers or something, and I just think that, over the next few months, we might need to think about that again, depending on what comes out of Columbus or what, if there's some, if we want to make a statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that lawsuit's continuing to,
Yeah.
to move forward.
Yeah, like, so.
Right,
it's just
and
something that,
and
we're
maybe
talking
we
about
need
it,
to
like,
think about
in
that
the next
again,
few months, and
revisit
maybe
that.
it's something we can even, I know we have a lot to talk about at the board retreat because of
Yeah.
the, master's facility and such, but it just might be something else that we want.
That would be a
to
good
start
thing
thinking
to,
about again.
yeah, talk
Because
about
I think
that.
I get a little sick to my stomach, like a little pit in my stomach when I hear about universal vouchers and everything, so,
Right.
that's just an FYI.
Right, because, at the end of the day, while we have to, think about our district, right? This is what people, elect us for. We still have to be very concerned about public
Yeah,
education in
and
general.
Especially when you factor that another thing we're gonna be talking about at the board retreat is when we potentially run back on the ballot.
Right,
And, what's happening in Columbus is certainly gonna have an impact on that.
right,
On what we need to do and the timing of it, so.
right, right.
Alright, I just took what he interjected, all that positive stuff, and I just brought it back down.
That's all right, it's all good. No, it's all good. We can sustain ourselves. Okay, thank you very much. Is there any questions for Dr. Lloyd? Alrighty, we have no hearing of the public. No one asked to speak with us. Ms. Ravens, anything? Okay, thank you. We'd like to acknowledge, a donation to, the Early Childhood Center. Thank you so much. From New Dye Corporation. And now we're on to our consent agenda. I'll accept a motion from the board for approval of consent agenda items. Before we do that, we talked about voting on 11B separately, the Cleveland State agreement, just because Mrs. DeMarco, or Dr. DeMarco. So can we do that separately? And also, we should acknowledge, we've just had a lot going on tonight. I feel like very scattered tonight. It is School Board Appreciation Month.
It is.
And we're gonna vote on a resolution to thank everyone for all your service as a school board member. And, students took the time to write us very nice notes. And, we also have
You have
gifts.
fabulous,
So if
fabulous
you
gift.
wanna look at your gift, guys, anyway, Phil the jury, look at your gift. I'll hold it up for, our virtual audience. Thank you so much, to the district for, it says making a difference, it's what I do. And then our logo, which I love our logo. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, board members, for all your work. Okay, are we good with that? Okay, so we'll vote on that one separately. So I'll accept a motion for consent agenda items, in, categories 8 through 11.
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion from the board on those items in 8 through 11,
You mean other than 11B?
other than 11B?
Yep.
Thank you. Any? Mr. Robinson, you can call the roll when you're ready.
Dr. DeMarco?
Yes.
Mr. Eckenrode?
Yes.
Mr. Funk? Yes. Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
And Mrs. Newman?
Yes, motion carries. And then I'll accept a motion for 11B.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, on item 11B? Please call the roll, Mr. Robson.
Dr. DeMarco? Mr. Eckenrode?
Yes.
Mr. Funk? Yes. Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
And Mrs. Newman?
Yes. Okay, so, we're on, 13A and B. So, we have a work session scheduled, and then Dr. Lloyd, you just said you'll be out of town at the national convention. That's okay. Well, we have in the past, not usually, very rarely do we have a meeting without you. And in my opinion, it feels very disjointed when you're not there. So I feel like we could push the meet. We need to have a work session in February, and we need to have a regular meeting. What we need a work session for is we need to officially discuss together the goals of the superintendent and treasurer for the school year. We are behind in this, and we just had a very busy fall. But we need to stay true to what we need to do. And it's also good exercise for our new board member to go through this and to publicly, talk about this and understand what the goals are. So I would like to do, I would like, think that it would be best for us to do that in a work session. It won't, it shouldn't take long, but we should do it regardless. So we could either move our regular meeting to the 2nd and then find and doodle a work session later in the month, but I don't know timing wise on things that we have to take action on if February 2nd is too early. Or we can just doodle.
If we did the regular on the 2nd, I wouldn't have any financials for you.
So I say leave the work session on the 2nd, and I think that we should doodle for a date after Dr. Lloyd gets.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. No, I mean, I was telling Justin, like, it never happens. We never move the third Thursday meeting, and here we are. See, welcome to
Right
board
off the bat, yeah.
It usually doesn't happen, but sometimes.
I can do those remotely. Right? You want it? Okay.
To me, it just feels weird.
It did. I had to call from Columbus. In fact, we were all sitting down there. We're like, should we call it?
Right.
I'm calling it. Are you calling it?
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
it's funny.
I do just, it's not until later, but I think we have our work session in June scheduled on graduation. So just knowing that, and also I think our work session in May is scheduled on the same day as the senior award, scholarship night.
Oh.
And I'm only bringing this up because I have a
You have a
senior this
senior.
year. So, I sort of feel like we voted on it and, work sessions are easier to reschedule and need a work session, right? So that's why I kind of we should wait till we get closer to see. But if the facilities, commission, study is done, we could see some additional work coming up in terms of discussion, but I say let's just wait till we get a little bit closer. There's a lot of living that's gonna happen between now and May and June, so. Okay, so you'll let Debbie know that, great, okay. Is there any other general board discussion at this time from any board member? Oh, I did want to publicly welcome Justin. I know when you asked me, Phil, I wasn't sure when to put it in the meeting, and then I was gonna do it right before we recessed for cake, and then it was like a whirl. There was too much going on, so we for the public's edification, we interviewed many candidates. We had 14 candidates, and we brought 6 back for second interviews. And from there, we chose Justin, who is sitting here today. And we all agreed that Justin is going to be a great asset to the board and brings a lot of skills that we think are necessary to do the job. He seems like he's an all-in bulldog, right? He's an alumni, which is a bonus, but not a requirement. And super involved in the community already, serving on the HOAs, where he lives and on the zoning board at the township, and he coaches, and now he's doing this. So I hope you still have time for your family, and you will, I'm sure. But we're super excited that you're here with us, and it will be a wild ride, but it'll be fun too. So yeah, we appreciate you here, and thank you very much. So with all that, I think it's time to motion to adjourn at 9:03. I'll accept a motion.
Second.
And you call the roll when you're ready, Brad.
We're gonna stay here a little bit longer.
I
Dr.
really
DeMarco?
forgot.
Dr. Marco? Mr. Eckenrode?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Funk? Yes. Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
And Mrs. Moore.
Yes, thank you everyone for your attendance.